And we are live. And welcome to another edition of DT Live. This is Sunday, June 3rd, 2018. Just relaxing here. A Sunday afternoon here in the US. Today's topic is going to be one that I've really been needing to do something on this for a little while because it's a prevailing theme sometimes in the comment sections of a lot of my videos. What really sparked it on was some of the comments I got on my recent video about Microsoft purchasing Github, potentially. And, a lot of, especially Microsoft fans, Windows fanboys accuse us Linux fanboys of just hating on Microsoft for no reason. It's just because we hate large corporations or we're somehow anti-corporate or anti-business. And other than the Microsoft video I did, there's similar themes going on in some of the comments on the Brian Lenduke video I did about 3 weeks back. I've had similar themes in the comments with some of the videos I've done about Richard Stallman and the free software movement. Is that basically Linux users, free software people, open source software people, we are anti-corporation. We hate corporations. Basically, we hate anybody making money. And that's going to be our topic for the day. And let's check out the chat. Actually got quite a few people already here in the stream. And some of you guys were here early and left a few comments. Let's see. Inatega, not sure how to pronounce your name. I don't hate large corporations. I hate the decisions they make. Yep. We're going to get into that. Yeah, Lamarck says, this question makes me remind me about a user on Linux Mint forums that said every Linux user is a commie, hippie, and that they want everything for free and can't pay for the Microsoft license. Yeah, we'll get into some of that too. Linux user says there's plenty of Linux users who are conservatives. I would agree with that. Raven Feeder, I hate large corporations, but I'm not a commie, nor do I want anything for free. Red Robbo is in the chat. He hates large free market corporations and he's most definitely a commie, though definitely not a hippie. Or most definitely not a commie, probably is what he meant there. Sad Error says, hey DT. Hey Sad Error. And Sad Error says he hates large corporations. They do ruin everything and only care about profit and money. In this case, I am prepared for the move from GitHub to GitLab, and I find advantage of GitLab more. Like the web IDE it offers, it's pretty sweet. Awesome. Marco says, hey. What's going on, Marco? Yeah, Sad Error says, on IRC yesterday morning, I saw someone say MS is buying GitLab, and I was fine with it, but then I saw they mistyped after looking it up on Softpedia. Yeah, they're buying GitHub, potentially. It's not official yet. A lot of chat to get through already. Let's see. Yeah, Red Robbo. Large corporations require growth in order to survive. They grow by swallowing up the competition and therefore act as a brake on development and freedom. Yeah, we'll get onto some of that theme too. One of the things Richard Stallman likes to say about large corporations, the mega corporations, is they stifle development, competition. Red Robbo says the requirements of corporate growth are therefore incompatible with the ideas of FOSS. Yep. Marco. Yeah, but customers are sometimes sick of their policy. 1. Place corporation. 2. Place money. 3. Greed. 4. Customers. Red Robbo. Just look at Canonical. It has reached the point where an IPO is necessary to satisfy future expansion. Alright. And that was just the comments before the stream started. Now the comments after the stream started. Undefined Particle says hi. Sad Error says hi again. Joel Eisner's in the chat. He says he's finally here for the start of one of these. I tried to change up the time for a live stream. I'm doing this a little earlier than I normally do, just to switch it up, see if I get a different crowd. Let's see. Sad Error, I saw your video just now. You were leaving to GitLab as well. What is your GitLab? I would follow DWT1. So gitlab.com/DWT1. Yeah, Mr. F is in the house. All right. Yeah, Janice Hoffman says Canonical, Red Hat, Mozilla. Yeah, all large companies. Do we hate all of those? Not the same way we hate companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Google. We're going to get into some of the differences too. Carl says, yeah, I think GitLab ain't open source either. That's true. Yeah, it's not entirely open source. They do use a lot of open source stuff on GitLab, but it's not entirely open source. But it's better than what GitHub was. GitHub really wasn't open source at all. Yeah, Kevin Patel says, hey, DT. M4 says, hi, squad. Let's see. Yeah, sad error. We hate anyone making money. That is stupid. How do open source companies make some money? Yeah. Yeah. Horace says, I don't hate large corporations. I hate the greed, and most don't put out good quality products anymore. I would agree with that too. M4 also says he likes ethical software. He does not find such things in large corporate products. That's true. And Mr. Strange Symbol Guy, that's Tagferin, right? If I remember your name correctly, he says, hello, dear Derek. Those large companies, they want to manipulate people and markets. That's true. Yeah, Tony T. How many Linux users work at large corporations? We're going to get into some of that too. I think a lot of people don't realize how much of our operating system, GNU/Linux, that most of us run on a daily basis, how much of that software is actually produced by people that work for these large corporations. Think about the kernel itself. You think that's just, mostly volunteers working on the kernel? No. Most of these people are actually being paid to work on the kernel by various corporations. All right. Let's see. Amiga God. Hey, DT. Finally got to watch a live stream. Yeah, I'm glad I got a few different people in the stream today. Like I said, I normally do these, 4 or 5 hours later in the day than I did today. I figured I would do one kind of earlier in the afternoon. For people in different time zones, I wanted to switch it up a little bit. Yeah, Joel Eisner says, I think the biggest thing with the potential acquisition of GitHub from Microsoft is Microsoft's track record of hating on open source software and also stealing projects from GitHub users without recognition. Good point. Yeah, Frosty, competition is the law of the jungle, but cooperation is the law of civilization. Yeah, my issue with large corporations is how much they contribute to open source software, yet they won't open source anything. Very true. Yeah, Red Robbo says it's a UK friendly time. Yeah. That's what we were trying to do today. Yep, Derek Taylor, that is me. So that is the name on both my GitHub repo and the name of my GitLab repo. They're one and the same. Matter of fact, the URLs are practically the same. The only thing different is, github.com/DWT1, gitlab.com/DWT1. All right. I don't mind large corporations, but when they're making anti-consumer and anti-competition decisions, I can't support them. Felix, centralized economical power leads to centralized political power. Yes. You've been listening to Richard Stallman. Hate is a strong word. Some of us dislike corporations who are anti-free open markets. Yeah. All right, so let me make a note of where I stopped here in the chat. And we'll get on to the topic at hand here a little bit, of course. Do Linux fanboys hate large corporations? And just from the very brief look at the chat, most of you, yeah, you do. Let's be honest. We do. We hate large corporations. It's not that we hate people making money. We don't mind people making money. Most of us probably contribute money to our favorite free and open source software projects. I know I've contributed money to many open source software that I use on a daily basis. I've bought Linux distros, donated to Linux distros. Most of you have too. I don't mind purchasing open source software, free software. I mean, free Again, free has multiple meanings in the English language. When we talk about free, we're talking about free as in freedom. We're talking about libre software, not free as in beer, gratis. So, but I have no problems personally paying for free software and open source software. Probably most of you don't have any moral objections about doing that. You would gladly pay for your favorite programs as far as, putting a price on it. It's the other stuff we're talking about with these large corporations. Also, we've got to categorize large corporations. People especially talk about us Linux fanboys hating companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Google. I mean, those are large corporations. Do we hate them? Me personally, I'll speak for myself, yes. I don't like any of them. I don't want to use any of their services, buy any of their products. I don't want to pay them a dime if I can get away from it. And I can get away from most of them. Google is the toughest one to get away from right now for me, of course, because I have to use YouTube. But let's be clear. There are large corporations out there that are in a different category in regards to how they treat free software, open source software, those movements. A lot of the Linux fanboys, they talk bad about companies like Red Hat, Canonical, SUSE. Those are very large companies too. I mean, those are companies that are probably all valued, at $1 billion or more if somebody were to purchase them. Red Hat makes more than $1 billion every year. I mean, they're making over $1 billion annually. So it's a very, very large corporation. But there are differences with corporations like Red Hat, SUSE, Canonical, because they built their companies using free software, open source software. They're very friendly to the movement. They contribute a ton of stuff to free and open source software. They are in a different class of corporation than a company like Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Apple. Those companies built themselves on proprietary software for the most part, monopolistic practices, anti-competitive practices. They basically made their billions by being evil. And they made their billions in some cases by opposing the free software movement, the open source software movement. Microsoft, from the very beginning, really tried to squash out the free software movement. They hated Richard Stallman, the free software movement, the Free Software Foundation, and then later on the Linux guys came around, open source movement, and they really felt threatened by the Linux operating system, GNU/Linux. And Microsoft spent a lot of time trying to spread a lot of false information about Linux, how it was not as secure as Windows, which we all know that's complete BS. They also tried to spread a lot of misinformation about the cost of Linux, the real cost of Linux. That, you switch to Linux in a corporate environment, you end up spending more money because of all the support you need for Linux than you would had you just run Windows. That was the kind of thing that Microsoft was doing back in the 90s. They were really trying to scare people basically away from Linux. It didn't work. Linux just became more and more popular into what it is today. And now all of a sudden Microsoft is changing their tune. They're embracing Linux because they realize they can't kill it. It's too big to kill. So now what are they doing? They're trying to weasel their way into Linux, into free and open source software. And the super chat here. Let me go back to the chat view here. Horace, appreciate you, buddy. Really appreciate that. If you've got any question you want answered or anything you want to ask, go ahead, throw it out in the chat. And while I've got this paused here, let me see if I can catch up on the chat. The chat is moving along at a pretty fast speed here. So I apologize if I miss anybody that asks anything. If it's something really important and I miss it, feel free to ask it a second or third time if I don't see it the first time. Right. Super Garage, Google does bad things, yeah, but nowhere near the level of Microsoft or Amazon. I don't know if I agree with that. M4, ultimately the root for me is the software made to help humans ascend, sharpen their skills, allow freedom of use, yeah, freedom to collaborate. I agree. Very good point. And Tagferin, as someone in the chat said, they literally want to swallow all small companies and kill the competition. Yeah, that is the nature of mega corporations. is to kill off all competition. Is basically creating a monopoly is their goal. And monopolies are not good. I mean, they're not good for development, for human achievement. Monopolies are not good. So the mega corporations are definitely a negative. Yes, Satter is working on moving his GitHub stuff. Yep. Ray Lackey, I don't like corporate practices which squash the little guy in pursuit of greed and stamp out innovation. Yep. William Armstrong says hi. Hi, William. William Neese says hi. How you doing? Both Williams. And what do I think about Microsoft as a corporation? I think I just covered that. I have never been a big fan of Microsoft. Let's see. Yeah. I would worship Richard Stallman if he wasn't a pedo. Yeah. A lot of people do worship Richard Stallman, though. They see him as some sort of messianic figure, which I'm a big Richard Stallman fan, I gotta admit. Sauron. It's not a matter of hating corporations for the sake of it, it's just that corps tend to be completely immoral. Yep. Sad error. I just noticed your real name has the same 2 letters from DT. Yep, that's true. My real name, Derek Taylor, is DT. DistroTube is DT. I planned it that way. People in real life call me DT. People on YouTube call me DT, so it works out. See, Slackware users tend to be more conservative about it. Yeah, Super says, I want to see more paid open source software to show that it is possible to make money off of open source. I agree. That would be great. Used says, good evening. Let's see, where am I at here? Yeah, Mark Yates going to try Clover OS soon. I'm going to make a video somehow. I'll check it out, Mark. Sounds like a great video. You guys should check out Mark's channel. He recently started a YouTube channel. Andre. Yeah, I remember Ballmer going off at Linux. Yeah, Steve Ballmer, he really was trying to stop the advancement of Linux, because when he was CEO was really when Linux was really kind of taking off. They could see the threat coming. Let's see, what is my opinion on Android? It's not a very positive one. I have an Android phone, but what is my option? Android, Apple. It's the lesser of 2 evils, but I don't like... I really would like to decouple myself from Google. I don't want to be, so dependent on Google services and Google products. Let's see. Horace. No, just testing out my prepaid card as I hate using my info online. Very good point. And I appreciate the super chat again, Horace. You guys, if you want to do any kind of anonymous donations to me for the channel, I do have ways to do that. Obviously, I do Patreon. That can't be anonymous, though. Patreon, unfortunately, does not allow anonymous payments. I do have a LibrePay account, though. It's listed in the description. That does allow payments anonymously for those that wish to pay anonymously, to donate anonymously to the channel. And I'm cool with that. I actually respect those of you that refuse to use something like Patreon for, out of principle. I have no problem with that. I don't mind Patreon that much. The not being able to pay anonymously thing, I know it's kind of against the principles of, the free software movement and Richard Stallman, but think about everything in life we pay for, though, with debit cards and credit cards. There's very little we do where we pay anonymously anymore. I wish it wasn't the case, but I think that ship has sailed for the most part. Yeah, Red Robo. I don't place Red Hat, SUSE, or Canonical in the same category as Apple or Google. Absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, people love to bitch about Red Hat, Linux forums because it's such a big corporation. They making, just fistfuls of money. Red Hat is nothing like Microsoft, nothing like Apple, nothing like Google. They're just not. Do they do some things that sometimes really tee off the Linux community, the free and open source communities? Yes. Yes, they do. Sometimes Red Hat makes some boneheaded decisions. So does Canonical. So does SUSE. So does companies like Oracle. But, you do have to... There are levels to these things. And when we're talking about, being totally, you know, on board with the free software movement and being completely anti-free software. I mean, Microsoft is like off the charts anti-free software. Let's see, Ray Lackey. I'm afraid it will instead cause... Don't know the difference because it's a Windows thing. Which, I must have missed something. Oh, I'd love for Microsoft's tactics of incorporating Linux into their systems to backfire and drive people towards Linux. Yeah. Ansem is in the house. He says, hello. Hi, Ansem. Daniel Kovacs is here. How much did I miss? You haven't missed much. I just started the stream, I don't know, what, 20 minutes ago. Talked very briefly about, you know, do Linux fanboys hate large corporations? And it's pretty much been mostly me reading the chat. And overwhelmingly, you know, all the Linux fanboys showed up and said, yes, they do in fact hate large corporations. It would be nice, actually, if there's any, like, Microsoft Windows users in the chat or Mac users in the chat, you know, people that don't really use Linux on a daily basis, what their thoughts of the Linux community being anti-corporation, because you guys will have a little bit different perspective on how you see us than the way we see ourselves. So feel free to share, you know, anything in the chat like that. You won't offend me. So let's see, they even killed one of the best web browsers. Yes, Microsoft killed Netscape, and they had an anti-monopoly lawsuit against them. They lost that lawsuit too, Microsoft did. But it didn't matter. They lost the lawsuit, but they had already killed Netscape at that point. They basically locked down the Windows operating system to where you pretty much had to use Internet Explorer, which of course is Microsoft's web browser. Because the browser most people were choosing to use, to download and use, was Netscape back in the 90s. And Microsoft was able to basically kill that company. Alright, let's see. Missed quite a bit of chat here. When you install proprietary software, you don't know what it's doing. There's no real way to know. That's true. That being said, you know, sometimes you have to install proprietary software. And I really need to catch up on some of this chat here. Let's see. Alex is asking, do I accept bitcoins? I don't. I don't use bitcoins for anything. None of the payment processors I use accept bitcoins. If you want to donate to the channel, I have 3 different ways. Patreon, LibrePay, and PayPal. So, Mark Yates. Strange. What is strange there? It's weird to say that he says 2 and then 10. I must have missed something there, Mark. Ben Fitzpatrick is in the house. He personally hates fanboyism. It really pisses him off. Yeah. Tank Scud says, I like the open source free software movement more than corporations. I think we all do here, at least in this chat. I doubt you're going to get any disagreement about that. Let's see, Ben Fitzpatrick. I mean, seriously, why would anyone be a fanboy? It's just stupid. You'd be surprised. Yeah, William Armstrong, he agrees. He's not a fanboy anyways. Yeah, the fanboy is just what people really outside the Linux community tend to label us. A lot of the Windows crowd, they like to call us the Linux fanboys. Which there are some kind of extremists in the Linux community. I'd have to give them that. Let's see. Yeah, the non-free software can't be tampered with. Yeah, that's true. Proprietary software, closed source software can't be tampered with. Alright, I'm getting close to the catching up on the chat here. Yeah, Frost, don't hate the player, hate the game. Yeah. Present Arms, he's an anti-fanboy fanboy. Is that like a double negative? He uses the term freetards. I was actually going to bring that up here later in the stream. How they like to call us freetards. Yeah, Thanos, greetings from the UK. Such a nice live. Thank you, Derek. Really appreciate it. Hey, thank you, Thanos. Alright, let me get back to the stream here. And since somebody mentioned freetard, just for fun, I'm going to pull up freetard here on Urban Dictionary. Freetard. Freetard is an unyielding proponent of free and open source software, like the Linux operating system. They make no apologies for going on 10-minute rants about the importance of their impeccable values, like not paying for things and sticking it to the man. That is a perfect definition. Freetard. Oh. And let's see what else I've got here. A little bit of some Richard Stallman quotes, since Richard Stallman is going to come up a lot in the stream. But anyway, one of his quotes from 2006. This is the greatest political question of our time. How can we put an end to the empire of mega corporations and restore democracy? If I knew, I would be the savior of the world. What I think I can tell is that the media are crucial. The power of the corporate media enables truth to be suppressed and lies to be passed as truth. And so forth and so on. So basically, Richard Stallman, he's not a fan of the mega corporation. And then, let's also take a look at Stallman's Law. Stallman's Law. Now that corporations dominate society and write the laws, each advance or change in technology is an opening for them to further restrict or mistreat its users. Yeah. I couldn't have said that better myself. Of course, Richard Stallman hates a lot of what the large corporations do, as far as, obviously, most of them use proprietary software. Of course, in the last few years, Richard Stallman has really went on a rampage against DRM, digital rights management. For those, most of the folks here probably know this, but let me pull it up. For those that don't know what DRM is, digital rights management, that's a set of access control technologies for restricting the use of proprietary hardware and copyrighted works. DRM tries to control the use, modification, and distribution of copyrighted works such as software and multimedia content, as well as systems within devices that enforce these policies. So think about, DRM restricts users and the way they can use things like CDs, DVDs, streaming technologies, that sort of thing. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, and the Free Software Foundation, the FSF, not big fans of DRM. All right, back to the chat. Let's see if we can catch up on some of the chat here. All right, Finian is in the chat. He's the thoughts on RMS, Richard Stallman, Richard Matthew Stallman. Most people on the internet like to use his initials, RMS. My thoughts is he's a great man. He's a little wacko. He's kind of a nut job. But you know what? I'm glad he's on our team. Alex says, freetards is new for me. Yeah. Used to hear that term a lot. Not as common now as it used to be. But back in the day, yeah, it's especially, again, it's a lot of the Windows fanboys that like to label the Linux people as freetards. We're freetards. The only reason we don't use Windows is because we're cheap and we can't afford the Windows license. If we had money, we'd all run Windows. Some people actually think that, too. That's what makes it funny. Yeah, William Armstrong. I like the channel. It's quite fun. Thank you, William. Present Arms. Freetard is such an oxymoron. Yeah. Terry Love. Not all corporations are bad. Some are using their profits to... let's see. I lost my place in the chat here. Sorry, guys. We got another super chat. Tony T, $5. Appreciate that, Tony. What do you think of Bill Gates? I think Bill Gates is probably, or was probably, the biggest enemy to the free software movement and the open source software movement that we've ever had, that maybe we ever will have. Bill Gates really stifled basically the advancement of mankind. He probably is one of the people that restricted human achievement more than any other person on the planet, and he profited from it, insane profits from it. You know, I would equate somebody like Bill Gates with somebody like, I don't know, Adolf Hitler or Stalin, Joseph Stalin. I mean, people are going to think that's crazy, but in a lot of ways, think about it. Now he spends money on philanthropy. Yes, it's a joke that he, you know, does all this stuff with charity now, and, you know, people are just loving him for it. You know, makes me sick, to be honest. Alright, let me see if I can catch back up on some of the chat. Terry Love, I was reading your comment before I lost my place. Not all corporations are bad. Some are using their profits to fund developers and projects. Yep. You have to distinguish between friends and foes. Yep. Let's see. Ben Fitzpatrick, I don't know what RMS is, and quite frankly, I don't care. If you want to be entertained, Ben, you should check out some videos of Richard Stallman. You should check out some of the people that have tried to interview him. He is such a stubborn and principled person that the people that try to interview him really struggle with it, because he's not an easy interview. You're not ever going to get him off script. You're never going to get him to change his opinion on anything. See, Calm Oceans. I inherited the original Surface RT. Yes, Microsoft product. How you liking it? Present Arms. This is where this vid gets unmonetized. Yep. Yeah, they don't even apologize. It's outrageous. Yeah. Mark Yates. Freetards are terrible human beings. I was expecting something worse from Urban Dictionary. Yes, I picked the safest definition there. I looked it up a couple of minutes before the stream. I wanted to make sure it was kind of clean. So, but that top definition, actually, it's pretty accurate for when people use the term freetard, kind of what they think. That's actually a pretty good definition. This project is in the chat. He says, I moved to Linux about a year ago because Windows 8 and 10 were just awful. Tried Mac OS, but hated it. Settled on Arch with Plasma. Yeah. So you left Windows and Mac and you settled on Arch rather quickly too, huh? It's a big leap. A lot of people start off with something like Ubuntu or Mint or SUSE or something before just going straight to Arch, but hope it works out for you. Soren says, Plasma Master Race. And of course that sparks Frost saying, XFC, Master Race. You guys don't know what you're talking about. OpenBox is where all the action's at. I'm not using OpenBox at the moment, so I don't know what I'm talking about. William, I tried editing a video with an open source video editor that didn't end well. Yeah. Did you try Kdenlive? Kdenlive's pretty good stuff. Yeah, Ben says, I don't really care how I acquire or use software, I just use it. And to be honest, I'm sorry, but I don't like Stallman. To me, he is an a-hole. I don't care if I get hated for that. I'm just not a fan of his. There's actually a lot of people that use Linux that are not fans of Richard Stallman. Actually, I mean, our two biggest, I guess, celebrities in the free software movement and the open source software movement, Richard Stallman, of course, is out there in a big way. Linus Torvalds. I mean, they really are the fathers of our operating system, the GNU/Linux operating system. And let's be honest, they are not the best faces to put out there in public. Neither Richard Stallman or Linus Torvalds. I'll just leave it at that. All right. Let's see. Yeah, William Armstrong, you meant video for video editor. Yeah. Joel is also on XFCE, but he's had his eye on KDE. I think you probably like XFCE better. Toss is here. I prefer the Toss Corporation. Anything unfriendly, I toss it out the window. Yeah, just put it in the trunk of the Cadillac. Oh. A lot of chat here. Let's see. Yeah, Microsoft ruined Windows. That's true. They're going to try to run Linux now, I guess. Ben, I'm sorry. Stallman just doesn't have a sensible mindset. Yep. Yeah. A lot of people share that opinion. Marco, DT, in my country, we don't have problems with paying for licenses. We have piracy all over the place. Yeah, well, you can't stop piracy. That's another thing, is, the whole DRM thing. It was designed to stop piracy, basically. And the Free Software Foundation and Richard Stallman, their biggest complaint about DRM is it does nothing to stop piracy. And they're right. All it does is stifle, the legitimate people out there, doing, stuff with free software, open source software, Yeah. Used says no MP, no MP3. MP3 is now open source, isn't it? Toss says hello. Hello, Toss. Toss is in the chat. You plan on doing anything today, Toss, on your channel? I'll check it out later. For those of you that don't know about Total OS today, make sure to check out Toss's channel. He does some great content. He does regular content too. He's always doing something. Yeah, Daniel, love your install videos, DT. Keep it up. Appreciate it. Super says, I paid $100 for a legit Windows key, and I still switched to Linux. I agree. And most of us, when we originally switched to Linux, we had Windows machines. We paid for a Windows license when we bought our computers, right? But we still wiped Windows off of it and installed Linux. So it's not, we can't pay for Windows. We chose to move away from something we had already purchased anyway, for the most part. Yeah, present arms. Only silly people think that, yeah. Yeah, Gaza says not much of the content of GitHub is valuable in terms of volume. Well, you got to think, millions and millions of people use GitHub. Some of them are using some of the paid services on GitHub. GitHub is very valuable. Even if you wanted to do something silly like throw ads up on GitHub, which Microsoft might do. Who knows? But will Microsoft make money off of GitHub if they buy it? Yeah, they'll make some money. It's going to be a profitable product for them. Initially, it may end up just tanking after a while, but they'll make a little money off of it. A site that big, you've got no choice but to make money with it. It's just got too many users. Sauron says, I don't think Bill is a bad guy. Okay, but and then you say, but his business practices, ugh. Well, that's part of the man. His business practices, that's who he is. People like to separate personal and business, saying, oh, it's just business. No, it's not just business. I prefer to use my money to purchase a machine that I can use as I see fit, not how I'm told to. I agree. That's why I won't buy an Apple product. Just the way you're locked into it. Everything's so locked down. Yeah, Ben, I'm feeling sick with 99% of these messages. I'm sorry, but this is just a little too elite for me. We're a pretty elite crowd in the Linux community. Certain venues more than others. Let's see, Used. Can't send you dollars, only my blessing. Appreciate it, Used. I take blessings, so I'm open to that. Let's see, Marco, we should impale him on a stake. Let's not do anything quite that extreme, Marco. And whatever Bill Gates might have done in the past, that's already done. He's no longer, head of Microsoft. It's over with now at this point. Element says he saw the Hitler thing coming a mile away. Well, you know what? Somebody asked me, and, that is my reaction. Bill Gates has done a lot of harm to the human race. Run with the dolphin is in the chat. I think that's a big overstatement, given that anyone could write for Windows. Windows might not have been open source, but Windows is an open platform. Let's see, this was not the case prior to MS and the clone computer market. Ben, I never thought that the Linux community would get this nutty. Let's see, Iron Man, Microsoft is cancer. And Red Rabo, Stallman is generally correct, and having a proponent of the ultra-purist view is important. However, in the real world, you have to mix purism with pragmatism. Absolutely. So, getting on the Richard Stallman thing, because Richard Stallman is such a controversial figure. A lot of people love the guy. A lot of people worship him. They see him as this messianic figure because of his role in the free software movement. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people hate him. And he is extreme. But I say he's important because he's so extreme. Yeah, he's outrageous. Some of the stuff he says is completely outrageous and over the top, but he does that on purpose. He's pushing it on purpose so that, you know, the people on the other end have to meet him a little bit, right? He doesn't want to start off in the center, you know. He wants to start off way out here and have you come to him a little bit on some of his positions. And, you know, it's important to have somebody like Richard Stallman leading the free software movement. It really is. Yes, he's a whack job. I mean, he's completely nutty. Yeah, and more people are asking, William, I asked you earlier, the video editor, are you trying Kden Live? You said you were having problems with video editing. And I'm just now catching up on some of the chats, so you may have already answered this. Let's see. Yeah, there is something just wrong with people that want to pay for something that spies on them. Yeah, you're talking about Windows, yeah. Or, I mean, our Android phones or our iPhones, yeah. Or even not paying for something. I mean, it's free to sign up on Facebook. Think about what you gave up when you signed up on Facebook. Joe Hollow, you should see a video of RMS eating skin off his foot. Oh, I'm going to skip that one. Visual Vengeance. Hi there, chat. Hi, DT. Hi, Visual. Good to see you. Let's see. Sad error. Microsoft has officially acquired GitHub. Is it official? I actually didn't check the news, but it's not surprising because if the stories leaked were that the talks were serious, I mean, they wanted that out there, so it was coming if it is official now. Let me see. Let me actually do a quick search here. Go back to the browser. Microsoft, GitHub. See what kind of news comes up. No, of course I didn't type it right. Yep. Bloomberg 3 hours ago. Microsoft is said to have agreed to acquire coding site GitHub. Okay, so our worst fears have come true. I wonder what they purchased it for. It's probably not been released yet, as far as what the price was. Just scanning it here, see if it comes up with a number. No, it doesn't mention the price tag, but I'm sure it'll be out there soon. Anyway, so there you have it. Yeah, William Armstrong, I have a neutral opinion. So basically, William is taking the Switzerland approach. He's just going to be neutral. He's riding the fence. Yeah, Sad Error says, well, thank God I'm moving to GitLab right now. Yeah, I'm glad I've moved. I really wanted to delete all my stuff off of GitHub. I still have all my old repos on GitHub still. I'm going to take all that stuff down. I really just want my account deleted. I don't want Microsoft having all that stuff anyway. So let's see. Also, you got to wonder, is Microsoft going to make like people that sign up for a GitHub now like agree to an end user license agreement like the EULA? You know. I mean, if they run GitHub the way GitHub has been going in the past, it's not that big of a deal, but if they do some of their Microsoft kind of stuff with it. Yeah, all I can think of when I hear Bill Gates' name is his ridiculous, childish open letter he sent to computer hobbyists back in 1976. Yeah, is that the letter where he basically was trashing the idea of free software? I've seen a little bit of that one out there, and you're right, it is a crazy letter. Okay, I am way behind the chat here, so I'm just going to skip ahead because I am way behind on some of this stuff. A lot of talk about i3. I'm going to take a look at i3 soon on the channel, guys. That is the next window manager we get to, in the obscure window manager. Some of you guys in the chat mentioned you love i3. Some of you hate it. I have no opinion on the matter because I haven't really played with it much. We'll see. I like tiling window managers in general, so I'll probably be okay with it. Visual Vengeance. A computer is like air conditioning. It becomes useless the moment you open Windows. Morality. Bill Gates is still involved in Microsoft, just not officially. Okay. Well, I'm sure, he probably still owns, stock in the company. I would bet. Let's see, I'm yearly due paying member of the Free Software Foundation. That's Mr. F. Good for you, sir. See, M4, talking about large corporations, the biggest scam for me is printers. It is pure slavery and locking down. What do guys? I'm not sure what you meant there. Let's see, Tag Room, what are your thoughts? Microsoft making a Linux distro? I don't mind that much. They're free to do whatever they want. I mean, free and open source software is out there for anybody to do what they want. That's just part of it. I mean, we don't own Linux, us, the Linux community. I mean, it's out there for anybody to use, anybody to play with, anybody to... Now, they better respect things like the GPL, the license. Marco, DD, how'd you feel when Bill Gates got pie in his face? I didn't see that. And Joe Panico, happy Sunday, Derek. Hey, Joe, good to see you. Let's see. I bet 99% of Windows users don't know about the privacy issues. Yeah, I would bet most of them don't. Alright. Another super chat here. Joel, thank you, sir. I appreciate that, Joel. This one's for you, DT. Keep up the great work. Very nice, Joel. Sincerely. Appreciate that. Alright. Still trying to just skim through a lot of this chat. There's a lot of chat going on. Let's see. Rookie mentions, what about a die-hard gamer like me? When I like it or not, whether I like it or not, most of the games don't run on Linux. They run, of course, on Windows. Yep. Well, you know what? Sometimes you just have to use what works. I mean, I would just say be smart about it. I mean, I would have no problems keeping a Windows partition or a Windows VM around to game in. I wouldn't do any sensitive stuff. I wouldn't do like online banking on a Windows machine. Log into Linux for that. Yeah, so 27 million, is that the number of GitHub users? Or is that the number of GitHub projects? Lamarck posted that in the chat. I know it's a very large number. GitHub is a huge site. And although the Bloomberg article didn't mention a price on GitHub, the guesstimation was that Microsoft would probably end up paying around $5 billion for GitHub to purchase it. So. And Ben mentions, well, even though Microsoft bought GitHub doesn't mean I'm going to move from it. I imagine there will be a lot of people that will stay put, at least for a little while, see what Microsoft does with it. I mean, they may do good things with it. Who knows? For me, I'm not that invested in GitHub. I mean, I had a GitHub repo, but it's so easy, I mean, within minutes, just to push all my stuff to a different Git host. So, I just went ahead and made the move anyway. I was kind of looking at GitLab anyway. Seems to be where a lot of people are moving to these days. GNOME recently moved over to GitLab. Yeah, Joe says they're slowly trying to buy their way into our world. Well, they've already done that. They are huge contributors to the Linux kernel. Microsoft is. And this is what I wanted to get back to. Do Linux fanboys hate large corporations? Whether we like it or not, over 70% of the work that is done on the kernel, I think, is done by people that are paid by corporations. Corporations like Microsoft, even. Microsoft, yes, has people working on the kernel. Of course, corporations like Red Hat and whatnot. So, Google, big contributor. So a lot of these, and a lot of Linux users' minds, these evil corporations, you know what? They are the ones that are funding the development of the kernel, whether we like it or not. They are. It's not a community project anymore. The kernel is not a community project. It is a corporate project. Joe Panico, thanks for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate that, Joe. Let's see. Been meaning to do this, Derek. Thanks for your great content and friendship. Agreed. Joe is a great guy, you guys. If you guys ever check out the Big Daddy Linux podcast every Saturday night, Joe Panico is a regular over on Big Daddy's show. Joe is also a regular on Toss's show, Total OS Today. You guys should really check out Toss's channel, Total OS Today. If you guys are not sure, the links to either Big Daddy's show or Toss's show, go to my YouTube channel and view my channel playlist. And I have about 60 or 70 YouTube channels that I'm subscribed to, and both Big Daddy and Total OS Today are in there. And check out some of the other guys I'm subscribed to. There's a lot of really good Linux YouTube channels out there. A lot of good content out there. Let's see. Alex says, KDE fanboys are the worst. Oh. Let's see. Yeah, Toss mentioned earlier, I believe Stallman once stated, to avoid global disaster and make positive contribution to the world, you must avoid having children. That crossed the line. And Lunduke's reaction was priceless. Yeah, that was on the old Linux Action Show. Was that? I remember that interview was just crazy. Stallman came across as a real wacko in that interview. But that's Richard Stallman. I mean, that's the Richard Stallman we've all grown to know and love. Ansem, thanks for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate that. Ansem is a regular here on the chat. Says awesome chat. Thank you, sir. All right, let's see if I can catch up on some of the chat here. Let's see. Yeah, KDE fanboys. Yeah, you gotta watch out for the KDE fanboys. That's another thing. Why is it always comes down to GNOME or KDE, and those two camps can't get along? Can't we all just get along? Or at least can we all just get along that GNOME and KDE, are not even like the best desktop environments out there. I mean, XFCE. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, Lamarck, I hate the statement, if you're on the internet, you don't have privacy, says the guy who doesn't know what privacy is. Yeah, you're never private on the internet. It's impossible to be private if you're actually on the internet. As long as you're connected. Yeah, the Bloomberg article said $2 billion. The Bloomberg article says back in 2015, GitHub was valued to be worth $2 billion. Microsoft is going to have to pay more than just what they're valued at, though. It'll be a bigger price tag than $2 billion. It's going to be quite a bit more than $2 billion. So, yeah, the Windows subsystem for Windows. Let's see. Yeah, I had a dream about Microsoft buying the Linux kernel. Well, they can't buy the kernel. I mean, it's open source, so they could buy it, but, the kernel's still going to just be forked, and we're going to continue developing the kernel as is. Microsoft would just fork it and have their own kernel and do whatever they want with it, but they can't buy the kernel. It's kind of like a lot of people talk about them maybe buying Ubuntu. Well, they can't really buy Ubuntu like the distro. They can buy Canonical, the company that helps develop Ubuntu, but they can't really buy Ubuntu. I mean, they could buy Canonical and they could put out a distro that's still called Ubuntu, but all the community aspects of Ubuntu, the people that really helped make Ubuntu the distro, they would just change the name to another name and just keep going with Ubuntu in a different direction under a new name. That's the great thing with the open source world is we just fork things and keep going. It's like Open Office, OpenOffice became LibreOffice when OpenOffice was doing things that the community didn't agree with. So let's see. And if I recall correctly, they become large contributors in terms of code quantity to Linux because their patches sucked and required a lot of fixing. Are you talking about Microsoft? Yeah. Let's see. Joe Benico, don't let Tux Digital hear that KDE thought. Yeah, big KDE fan. Michael over at Tux Digital. Check out his channel too. I'm sure I've got him in my channel playlist as well. Yeah, morality. That's why I like Theo Durat. He has some of RMS's idealism when it comes to open source, but he comes at it from a more practical, real-world standpoint. Yeah, a lot of people really love Theo Durat. Now, Theo Durat, he's the main dev of, is it OpenBSD? I don't follow too much with the BSD world, but from what I've read about Theo, he seems like he's a really cool guy. Let's see. Yeah, Joel says it's sad to see Brian Lunduke's channel going downhill. Brian is doing well, though. If you check out his Patreon page, Brian is doing pretty okay right now, I think. It sucks for us, the viewers, because we no longer get to view his shows, but yeah, Daniel says it's no secret that Bill Gates basically stole the DOS operating system from some college students. I actually was not aware of that. It's not surprising, though. I mean, it's like Zuckerberg basically stole Facebook. If you guys ever watched the movie, is it The Social Network? Great movie, by the way, if you guys want to know a little of the backstory behind Facebook and Zuckerberg. He's not a really nice guy, or at least he's not portrayed as a very nice guy in that movie. But I'm not going to share my thoughts on Zuckerberg on the stream. I've already probably got in enough trouble sharing my thoughts about Bill Gates. Yeah. And Nascimento says Microsoft buying kernel rights isn't a dream. That's a nightmare. Yeah, Joel says, I wasn't even subscribed to Lunduke, I'm assuming, but I went to his videos now and again. Now it's a wasteland. Yeah, nobody really watching his stuff on YouTube. Of course, there's no comments anymore, so there's really no community on YouTube, which is unfortunate. Omar, DT, I'm going back to Windows if you don't make a video about full hard encryption. I should do some stuff on encryption. I usually don't encrypt my drives, though. But I could do a little bit on it for the channel. You guys that are interested in that stuff. Erwin says, GitHub will die. You know, well, that will be the interesting part of the story. Will there be this mass migration from GitHub over to something like GitLab or Bitbucket or whatnot? I predict there's going to be, a lot of folks leave, but I don't know if it's really going to be enough to hurt GitHub in a big way. KDE users never tell you about screen tearing issues. That's true. They always tell you it's a great desktop environment until you actually install it, and then, oops, your NVIDIA card's not working quite like you thought it should. Marco, Satan promised me that he will torment Bill Gates' soul in hell. Another stream I barely managed to catch the end of. Survivor of the Fire. Well, we've been streaming about an hour. I may stream a little longer, though, so stick around, Survivor. And, of course, the stream. You can always replay it. And, of course, there's always going to be more streams. I'm trying to do a little bit more live streaming these days. I like live streaming. It's less work for me, to be honest. I can live stream for an hour and a half or whatnot, where if I record an hour and a half worth of video, pre-recorded, and have to do audio editing, video editing, I mean, it's an all-day job. And live stream, I just click the start stream button. When I'm done, stop streaming, it's on YouTube. I don't have to edit anything. I don't have to do anything. So the live streams are a good way to, take it easy on a day where I really don't want to do much work. I mean, it is a Sunday. I'm not trying to render video all afternoon. That said, the pre-recorded stuff allows me to do some stuff a little better. A lot of the technical stuff that would be a little tougher to do during a live stream, because there would be a lot of dead air between things. So the live streams I tend to do for more, fun stuff, entertaining stuff. All right, let's see. Facebook is a branch of the NSA now. They made a movie about the Microsoft purchase of DOS. I'll look for that. That actually sounds interesting. Did somebody just pull the System D card here? Let's not get on System D. Everybody loves to hate on System D. It's too much hate in this stream already, just from the topic. Make sure you check out The Pirates of the Silicon Valley. It's an old but a classic movie about Apple and Microsoft. Awesome. Yes, Steve Jobs was the same. Wozniak made Apple. Jobs just stood on his shoulders. Yeah. I never really thought Steve Jobs was, it's not like he really ever created anything. I guess he was kind of a visionary, but it's not like he made Apple the company it was, or made like the iPhone or anything. He was basically good at marketing, Let's see. Morality says Brian Lunduke blocked me on Twitter after I pointed out that blocking all his YouTube comment would mean blocking legitimate criticism due to a minority of trolls, and he later unblocked you. Well, that's good. Brian seems like he's a really cool guy. I've talked to him a little bit. So, I'm glad he unblocked you. Let's see, we need encryption with DT's flavor. That's Omar. Yeah, but what kind of encryption you want to do? Or are you just going to leave it up to me? Is it my choice? I do need to do some stuff on encryption, though. People have asked me about it. I've got so much as far as a to-do list of things I need to eventually get around to doing on the channel. So many videos, so little time. And I make a lot of videos. I mean, I put out a lot of content. I still got, more stuff than I'll ever get around to doing, Even just like the distro reviews. There's just so many distros, and they're constantly coming out with new versions or new distros entirely. You can never take a look at all of them. Alright, I'm going to skip ahead here. Let's see, Joe, wow, 122 people watching. Nice. Speaking of which, all you 122 people watching, if you've enjoyed this stream, you're liking what you're seeing, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, considering subscribing to. That stuff helps. Helps the channel rank better and the YouTube algorithms. And gets more eyes on my content, more eyes on the channel. Let's see. Survivor of the Fire. Last night, using your tutorial, I installed Gen 2 and VirtualBox for the first time. Now I'm feeling cocky and want to dual boot it on hardware. Awesome. And, I'm really glad that week, that was about 3-4 weeks ago, I spent like 3 days. I did a Arch install live, actually, on the live stream. I went through an Arch install, and then the next day or the day after, I spent all day doing a Gen 2 install, and I pre-recorded that. And I really wanted to show you guys that those installs are not as hard as people make them out to be. If you can read through the wikis and type stuff in a terminal, it's not hard. And I made mistakes in both those installs along the way, and I wanted to show you guys that too. I never cut out any of the mistakes I make in my videos because I want you guys to see how I figure out how to fix them. Because that's the most important thing, is when things break, how do you fix it? Well, do what I do. I just go back to the wiki, I find where I made the mistake, and I fix it. I never get rattled. I never think, oh my, this is completely broken, I need to reformat the hard drive. No. Most of the time, the fixes are a lot easier than you think. But really, the install guide for Arch and the install guide for Gen 2, if you really just follow them closely, you'll be fine. There are those who stream for an hour and those who scream for an hour. Glad you're part of the first. Yeah. I don't like screaming too much. Joe says, you're lagging? Is anybody else lagging? Is the stream not looking good? I actually haven't looked at it. Stream health looks good right now. I'm looking at it in YouTube. I've got a green and OBS. It may have been lagging earlier. I don't know. Maybe somebody else was on the network here at the house. Everything looks good right now, though. Morality. DT is the Bob Ross of Linux installations. Present arms. GNOME is too limiting for me. I would agree with that. For me personally, too, yeah. Yeah, DT, you talked about Diaspora. Maybe a talk about Proton Mail might be nice. I might take a look at Proton Mail at some point. I don't usually use webmail, so that's why I haven't really bothered looking at Proton Mail, but I might take a look at it. I know a lot of you guys are interested in it. Yeah, Greg F. Gentu's a steep climb, but worth it. Wish it was easier for beginners. Well, it's not really designed for beginners, though. I mean, it's designed for somebody to build their Linux distribution. I mean, build it from the ground up. That can't be for, I mean, by its very nature, that can't be for new users, so. We have plenty of distros out there for new users, though. I mean, let Gentoo do its own thing. You know, it's going in a different direction, and that's good. There are people that, you know, it caters to, that love it. Yeah. Ari says, stream is fine, not lagging. Yeah, it's looking good here on my end, too. It may have just been a server problem with YouTube. The stream health is looking good. Let's see. Can it be that GNOME moved to GitLab because of the possible deal that Microsoft was buying GitHub? Who knows? Yeah, I mean, GNOME, a lot of their people, you know, work for Red Hat. Maybe some of those people know some people that work with Microsoft. Maybe they got wind of it. Yeah, Joe says, yeah, the signal's better now. It's just a brief lag period. Okay. And Capolino, hello from Germany. Hi, Capolino. Good to see you. If you're new to the stream, good to have you. Everybody say hi to Capolino. And Zaria Saad. How's Google AdSense affect you? Google AdSense, as far as affecting me, if you're talking about like from a moral perspective, you know, having to use a Google product, obviously to get paid on YouTube, as far as the ads, you have to have an AdSense account. Do I like, you know, having to depend on Google for such a service? No, but I mean, it's a Google product. YouTube's a Google product, so. Let's see, Mark Yates. DT is Derek, and he's the man. He needs to simply be the best Derek he can be. Thanks, Mark. Adam Grubbs, hey DT, enjoy your content. I use Linux at work, but I don't really use it at home that much. Keep up the good work. Yeah. What are you using at work? What distro you guys running? See, I think DT would look good in a Bob Ross wig. I should buy me one. Yeah, I can make a video top 10 distros for the new user. Yeah, I should get around to that. Come at it from a new user perspective. I've got some thoughts on that. And my thoughts on it probably would differ a little bit than what a lot of the other YouTube channels typically recommend. But I don't want to spoil it in case I do make that video. I'm just going to leave that hanging out there. There might be some things that I throw in there that a lot of other YouTubers wouldn't. Yeah, Aris says Gentoo is unique and it doesn't need to cater to new users. That's right. That's not what Gentoo is really designed for. Gentoo is not a distro that's designed to be run by the masses. You know, it's not designed to be popular. It's a very, very small niche of the population that would run something like Gentoo. Most people don't need to compile their own software to their own specific hardware and, you know. Let's see, morality. To be fair, a lot of people have been jumping ship from GitHub to GitLab for years after their code of conducts. Yeah, Red Bravo. I think I need to do a video on how to prevent KDE screen tearing on NVIDIA and Intel. That would be a fantastic video for you to do, Red Bravo. I certainly would be interested in watching that. And I'm sure it would get a lot of views because there's a lot of people out there searching for that very problem. People, you know, typing, you know, screen tearing KDE, NVIDIA in Google right now. It would be great if they checked out your video. Yeah, morality. He's talking about GitHub's code of conduct. Yeah. Yeah, Silent Reboot is here. He says, "Hey, DT. Hey, everyone. How you doing?" Super Garage. I still use Outlook. Probably should switch to Proton Mail. Probably so. And M4 says, "We have recently updated our privacy policy, and you're a little late on that." And Mark Yates, "Never ran Gentoo in my life, but I'm about to do something crazy." Sounds ominous. What are you about to do, Mark? Let's see. Where I work has desktop management policies on everything but Linux. Looks like I'm switching to Linux at work. Very cool. Yeah, Richard Addison, "I like Linux very much. I don't hate Microsoft, but I strongly dislike it. Microsoft is not so much a group of people, but a way of devious thinking." Yeah. Alright, I'm finally sort of getting to the end of the chat here. People have asked me about the Linux Mint beta. Had a few people asked about that. I haven't taken a look at it. I'm not sure if I will take a look at the beta. I may just wait till the official release of Mint. And that's just, for me personally, Mint as a distro, it's never really interested me that much. I mean, I've taken a look at it a few times on the channel, some of their past versions, but it's not a distro I really follow closely, to be honest. I've never used Mint, never installed it on a machine, actually, on physical hardware. Maybe I should at some point. If I did, I would have to use like their XFCE edition. I really don't like Cinnamon, which is probably why I don't like Mint. So. But they do have an XFCE edition. I could take a look at it. And Terry says, "Not every distro needs to be all things to all people." Yes, it is impossible for every distro to fill every role. There is no one perfect distro. Yeah, that's why there's so many distros. Each of them has, something that they're aiming for. They have a goal in mind. There are some distros that can kind of be jack of all trades. Ubuntu fills that role pretty well. I mean, you can do pretty much anything you want to do with Ubuntu. But if you're looking just for like one specific thing, there's probably better options than Ubuntu in some areas. Yeah, Greg F. "I find it interesting that Chrome OS is actually Gentoo underneath. And I can see why. Ironically, good choice for a lockdown OS, but Google paid Linux users very little service." Yeah. Mark Yates, "Is there anything harder than Gentoo? Because I'd like to bite." Harder to install? Yeah. Linux from scratch is much harder. Expect to spend a few days or maybe even weeks installing Linux from scratch. But when you're done with it, Linux from scratch doesn't have like any kind of package manager. It's not a real distro. It's not something you're going to live in. Gentoo is an actual real Linux distribution. When you're done installing it, you have a real Linux distribution you can use on a daily basis. Alright, yeah, the beta runs smooth of Mint. Okay. Microsoft never changed. The times have. Yeah, Microsoft. I don't know. The new CEO, Satya Nadella, I mean, he seems a lot better than Ballmer and Gates and those guys. Did somebody insult Cinnamon? I don't know. I didn't insult Cinnamon. I just said I didn't like it. There were no insults. Just an opinion. But maybe somebody in the chat insulted Cinnamon. I don't know. Let's see. Does Mint compile all their packages themselves, or do they use a great part of the Ubuntu binary tree? I am not positive on that. I know back in the day, a few years back, yeah, they were just using Ubuntu's binaries. And Ubuntu did not like that. Because there's a lot of Mint users, and, having those guys, basically connecting to Ubuntu's repos, I can understand server space, it's not cheap, so. Yeah, Silent Reboot. I find Mint very heavy and clunky, mostly Cinnamon, I think. Yeah, that's probably why I've never really, been a fan of it. Never liked Cinnamon as a desktop environment. Never really seen the point of it. I really wish the Mint team, when they originally started with both Cinnamon and Mate, I really wish they would have just focused on Mate and just dropped the whole idea of Cinnamon. It didn't make sense to even make Cinnamon, to be honest. You're just making another desktop environment just like all the other desktop environments out there. There's too many that look and function the same way. You're basically trying to mimic the whole Windows paradigm with the bottom taskbar and the start menu and all of that. We already have Mate and XFCE and all these other desktop environments that do something similar. Work on one of them, you know. Yeah, Harambe's Ghost. Where do you find Linux from scratch? Search for Linux from scratch in Google or Linux from scratch at distrowatch.com. Linux from scratch has a website. It might be linuxfromscratch.org. Let me see. linuxfromscratch.org. Yep, that's correct. All right. Yeah, Sarhan, Linux from Scratch is a book. Yeah, and you're going to have to read it to get it installed. Yeah, I installed Mint Beta, but for some reason it won't install Google. It won't install Google. Google, what does that mean? Google Chrome, I'm assuming is what you mean. Google Chrome is proprietary software, so it's probably not in the repos. How are you trying to install it, though? You trying to install it from maybe a deb package or something? Does Google Chrome have a snap? You might could try a snap. I'm not sure. I don't use Google Chrome, though. Yeah, I think Linux Mint should change its name to Mint OS or just Mint. Well, most people just call it Mint anyway. I mean, very few people just call it Linux Mint. It's usually just, I use Mint. Kind of like Arch Linux. Nobody calls it Arch Linux. I run Arch. That's what people say. Yeah, Thomas Holt is in the chat. He says, hey, DT. Hey, Thomas. You're catching what's probably going to be about the end of the chat here. We've been streaming for about an hour and 17 minutes, so I'll probably go a few more minutes and then shut it down. Yeah, Calm Motions. I liked Reborn OS. I did too. But Arch had a major bug when I couldn't select things in Gparted. Yeah. Yeah, and Linux Freedom Fighter mentions, yeah, he's talking about Google Chrome having a hard time getting it installed in Mint. Again, I don't use Google Chrome, so I can't speak on that. I don't use Mint either, so maybe somebody in the chat, I'm sure there's some Mint users probably in the chat that use Google Chrome, maybe could help you out with that. If not, you just go over to the Mint forums. They seem like they have a pretty big and friendly community over there, so I'm sure they would be happy to help you. Let's see. Peter's mentioning Manjaro KDE is fine, but there are a few issues. Yeah, I installed Manjaro KDE on my main machine, January 1st of this year, for the new year. If you guys remember, I was going to live in Manjaro KDE for a while, and I did. I ran Manjaro KDE for 3 months, although I only lived in KDE for that first month. I gave it 1 whole month KDE, and you guys know I love things like OpenBox and Xmonad and stuff like that. I did live 1 month in KDE. And it was okay, but I'm not a fan. And it had a lot of issues. The screen tearing, had programs crashing, the panel, things in the panel didn't work right sometimes. I don't know. It looks pretty, though. I mean, KDE is a beautiful desktop environment. And I like the KDE apps. A lot of the KDE apps. I love Dolphin, Kate. I like their terminal console. Like, of course, Kate and Live. K3B, the disk burning utility. A lot of the KDE apps are really first class. And Thomas says he's having to take care of cleanup after his wife passed. Oh, sorry to hear that, Thomas. That's tough. Hate to hear that, buddy. Let's see, Peter Jansen, also an occasional crash of compositor, glitchy icons. And then somebody's mentioning the Lumina desktop environment. Oh, that thing is horrible. The worst desktop environment I've ever tried, the Lumina desktop. It's complete and utter garbage. Can I make a video about the cons of KDE? I'd have to make a series of videos on that. But yeah, I could do that. I could make one that's kind of short and to the point. But you know what? I don't like making videos. I mean, I could give my opinion on why I don't use KDE, but I'm not going to make a video. Here is why you guys shouldn't use KDE. That's not the kind of thing I do. Yeah, Siva says he loves KDE, and that's the reason I'm not going to bash on KDE. Some people love it. I mean, if it works for you, yeah, keep using it. If it doesn't work for you, yeah, find something else. What about Qtile? Qtile is awesome. I'm going to do some more stuff with Qtile soon. I mean, my channel kind of became like the OpenBox channel initially because I did so many videos about OpenBox. A lot of people are finding Qtile because of my channel, so I really want to get back to focusing a little bit more on both OpenBox and Qtile, doing more stuff with those. Let's see. Yeah, Lumina is ugly and buggy as hell. How about a video about the pros and cons of each desktop environment? That could be interesting. What do you think of Debian Stretch, Derek? I'm a big Debian fan. I love Debian Stable. That's my kind of distro normally. Since doing my YouTube channel, though, I've been sticking to a lot more Arch-based distros, doing rolling release distros. But, I mean, if I didn't do some of the stuff I do on this channel, if I was just your regular computer user, I would install Debian Stable, and that's it. It would just work. Nothing. You don't have to worry about crashes or instability. It would just work for a few years until the next version of Debian comes out, and then you reinstall. Let's see. Please do a video about how the big two desktops are inferior to OpenBox. I like that. Now that's a video I could make. Yeah. Absolutely. That is the perfect topic. What about JWM? I did a video on Joe's Window Manager. I might revisit it at some point. Joe's Window Manager was a nice window manager. Yeah, Joel says, because of this channel, I want to try OpenBox and Qtile. Yeah, install them. There's almost no I don't think there's any dependencies to OpenBox. I think it's just one program. It installs in seconds. Log back out of whatever window manager you're using, log back into OpenBox. Qtile is the same way. I mean, it's written in Python, but you already have Python installed on any Linux machine, so. You bash on KDE? Unsubscribe. How dare you have a different opinion than me? Have you tried Flint OS? I have not. I think I looked at their website once a couple of months back, and I don't remember what I was doing. I remember I was checking it out, though, for some reason. I was thinking about maybe reviewing it. Maybe I needed to take a look at their website again. But for some reason, I guess I decided not to make a video on it. I can't remember. Maybe I tried to install it and it didn't install. There have been a few distros people have asked me to take a look at over these past 7 or 8 months I've been doing this channel. I've had half a dozen or so that I've actually downloaded and tried to install and couldn't get the installer to work. So, and I don't put any of those on the channel. I'm not going to bash on a distro. If I can't get it to install properly, I don't like bashing on people that work on open source software. So if something just doesn't work for me, I don't do it on video. But I don't want to be seen as a hater either. So like, hey, look at me. Look at this garbage. I can't even get the installer to work properly. I'm not going to do that. So. And I don't know if that was the case with Flint OS, but there have been. But I know I looked at their website. So. Yeah, Joe says every distro has its share of pros and cons. Each works differently for every user. Yeah. Much of it can be hardware, network, so on. Yep. The good thing is that the Linux kernel takes care of so much of the hardware part. Pretty much as far as hardware, there's not much difference between one distro and the next these days. A lot of it really is just the user interface. Let's see, what about the Hannah Montana distro? How about some continued development on that? I've thought about playing around, maybe creating an updated version of Hannah Montana, you know, on like the latest Kubuntu. Try to put, you know, the Hannah Montana theme on it, you know, the new Plasma desktop. That could be interesting. Let's see. Can you use Trinity with the OpenBox window manager? I'm sure you could, but I'm not sure. Not sure why you'd want to. I mean, you would basically have the OpenBox window manager, but you want to use, I guess, the Trinity panel and the menu system. That panel and menu system and such is not that outstanding. I mean, I could find better third-party panels or third-party docks to use with OpenBox, to be honest. Alex says what he hates about KDE is Clipper. Is that the clipboard tool? And Siva, he doesn't have any screen tearing in KDE. Yeah, I mean, some people seem to have no problems with it, and other people just have all kinds of problems with it. It's weird. Yeah, what supports multi-monitor better, OpenBox or Qtile? Oh, both of those are fine with multi-monitor. OpenBox is going to act like your normal desktop environment window manager as far as, like, I have 3 monitors. If I create 4 workspaces, Workspace 1 has all 3 monitors. I switch to Workspace 2, all 3 monitors go to Workspace 2, etc., etc. The way you normally, you know, expect multi-monitors to work in things like GNOME or KDE. Qtile, though, each workspace is 1 monitor, if that makes sense. And it would make sense in a tiling window manager to do it that way. And if you ever start using a tiling window manager, you'll understand why it's better to have 1 workspace as 1 monitor. But either is fine in a multi-monitor setup. Yes, you just watched my TrueOS review. Roll on the floor laughing. Great stuff. Yeah, I hated TrueOS. That was the very first BSD distro I reviewed on the channel, and it was just complete and total garbage. And I got a lot of BSD fanboys hating on me in that video, in the comments. Hey, you know what? I came at it from a new user, and my initial reaction was, wow, that thing was horrible. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and kill the stream here. Get through the last couple of comments. Hannah Montana, the Wrecking Ball Edition, Steve Gunnick. Yeah, that'll be the version name. Hannah Montana 18, Wrecking Ball. Yeah, Survivor says, hey DT, I think it's time for you to stop avoiding Slackware. Yeah, I need to do something with Slackware on the channel. It'd be great if Slackware, you know, came out with a new release soon, because, you know, that would be interesting. Yeah, Red Rabu. I tried substituting the XFCE panel for Tent 2 on Debian OpenBox, and memory usage dropped by 40 megabytes. Surprising. Yep. Also depends on, you know, what if you have a sys tray, what's running in that sys tray. Let's see, i3 is great. Yeah, it might be. I'm going to check it out soon. Hannah Montana was great. Yeah, Hannah Montana wasn't bad. Yeah, we got to do Bieber versus Hannah Montana Linux. Face off. Andre, thanks for having us, Derek. Good to see you, Andre. Glad you could stop by. Peter says, bye, DT. Nice hanging out with you. Thanks, Peter. Terry Love. Okay, good night, all. Good night, Terry. Let's see. What do I think about Pop OS? It wasn't bad. I reviewed it on the channel. Wasn't a huge fan of it, but it's not bad. Microsoft, get off. Silent reboot. See ya, peeps. Take care, all. Yep. And let me go ahead and kill the stream here, guys. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, before I go, I do want to thank all the folks that are still hanging out in the chat here after an hour and a half. Still in the chat, we've got Alex, Amiga, Andre Com, Dan Snickles, Greg, Hector, Joe, Joel, Eust, Jay Nascimento, Linux Freedom Fighter, Lamarck, Mark Yates, Message, Morality, Peter, Present Arms, Red Robo, Richard, Silent Reboot, Siva, Steve, Super, Survivor, Terry Love, all you guys. All the folks that joined us in the chat earlier. It was good to see all you guys. Before I go, I do need to give a special thanks to my patrons, all my Patreon supporters, A.K. Ron, Mr. Neely Pops, John, Brian, Carl, Greg, Carlos, Rob, Matt, Darkwin, Mark, Christian, Jake, Benjamin, Stephen B., Stephen Z., Marcus, Interceptor, Bob, Leor, Omar, Silvio, David, Alex, Bruno, Mike, Daniel, Nick, Eduardo, David, Tony, Michael, Tiedemann, Tabella, and Dan. You guys are awesome. You guys help make this show possible. Peace, guys.